Hello, and you are back in the Velvet Room with Joker the Fool. This is our 22nd episode, and today we'll be discussing the Biden administration is trying to save the student loan system, don't fall for LARPERs, and the Rippaverse is cooking. So we're going to start this right off with the student loan system. The machine is trying to optimize debt slavery, and they're using Biden's dilapidated corpse to push this onto the public. And I saw this article from NBC that put this whole thing into my mind, specifically the second paragraph of this article, which I will read to you now, that the Education Department on Monday released a student debt relief proposal that would target 4 categories of borrowers: those with federal student loan balances that exceed the original borrowed amount, those with loans that entered into repayment 25 years ago or more, those with loans for career training programs that led to unreasonable debt loads or provided insufficient earnings, and those who are eligible for forgiveness on their other repayment plans but haven't applied for it. So this is the Biden administration or the machine trying to make the student loan debt system more functional for the people who it's hurt the most, and it's trying to lift up the crabs in the barrel that are at the absolute bottom of it in hopes of just maintaining what the student loan system is. Part of the debt slavery system we have in this country, whether it's credit card debts or car debts or these ridiculous mortgages that people get into. Student loan debt is part of this, and these 4 categories that I mentioned, people who aren't making enough money to justify the student loan debt they're in, those who've been paying into their loans for a quarter of a century, and those who are eligible for other repayment plans. These are people who, like I said, they're at the bottom rungs. They've gotten the shortest end of the stick when it comes to the student loan system, and the hope is if they can get these people onto fair ground, then they'll be able to keep maintenance of this federal student loan system that we find ourselves in, which is fundamentally ridiculous. It's up the price of college because, any 18-year-old with, a couple of dreams and looking to do something after high school can get into high 5 figures worth of debt backed by the United States taxpayer. And that's allowed the colleges to basically just up the price of tuition every year. And you find that over the last 30 years, tuition for colleges in this country has raised hundreds of percentage points, and it's because of the federal student loan system, which has, it's made a lot of money. It keeps people dependent on the system. It gives the state something to jangle keys in front of voters to get them out to the polls saying, hey, we're going to cancel it. Hey, we're going to make it better. Hey, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And this is the next thing that they're doing to try and keep more people on the system, raise public opinion of the system, and 2, buy votes for this current free buy votes for this current administration. So that's what I really want the takeaway to be from this recent thing that this Biden administration is doing with the student loan system, student loan forgiveness. Forgive me for mincing my words like that. Is that this is a very cynical, calculated move, not only for political gain in terms of making Biden seem like he's carrying through with canceling student loan debt, but it's also just to make the student loan debt, the federal student loan program, more viable in the long term, because it's targeting, like I said, the people who are at the bottom end of that, who got the worst deals. And that's not to say that, with the federal government doing this sort of program, they don't have a sort of responsibility to do right by the people who they give loans out to. It's just that it's not a program that should exist in the first place because, taxation is theft by means of extortion. So to steal money from people, then use that money as collateral for loans that so many people can't pay back, it just makes things worse, in my opinion. And they're trying to fix things, not just, axe the program entirely and just let the free market educate people the way it sees fit. But hey, so many people are not ready for that at all. So next, we're going to go into the group of people who are the most passionate about student loan in general, because they're the ones who have gotten into it most recently, and these are the young people. I'm 25, so people I would say around my age or younger, maybe a little bit older, who are very far left. They are the law resistance revolution types. They LARP as revolutionary. That's why I say LARPers. And this was brought into my mind with Rachel Zeigler, who's been talked about a lot for her role in Snow White. But the other thing that she's doing is a prequel for the Hunger Games. So the Hunger Games, first 3 books, very popular. I read them all when I was in middle school. I watched one of the first 4 movies, because you had 3 books, 4 movies. Mockingjay, the last book, was split into 2 movies. They do that. And since it was such a popular franchise, and Hollywood's all in on franchises, they got Suzanne Collins to write a prequel to it. They're making a movie off of it, because Hollywood, God forbid Hollywood does anything original these days. So they have a Hunger Game prequel they can make a movie off of, and Rachel Zeigler is starring in that movie. And while there is a Hollywood strike going on, Rachel Zeigler was able to get an interim agreement to promote this Hunger Games prequel movie, and she jumps right at it because she's getting paid to do these promotional things, I would imagine, and the money is more important to her than having any sort of moral code. Because when these strikes first started happening, right, she goes on and says, if I'm going to spend 18 hours a day, however many hours she said, wearing that iconic Disney princess dress, and she needs to be paid for every hour it streams, right? And then as soon as the money starts rolling in, then she'll sign that agreement. Lionsgate gets to pay her to promote the movie, and she gets cash checks at the bank, while completely abandoning any sort of desire to strike, which is why I say it's all really just LARPing. And another little tangent with this is that the whole thing is that she says she uses Snow White, right? Saying, she knows it's an iconic Disney princess. That dress, character is iconic. It built the modern Disney company. That was the first feature movie that Disney made, because Disney before then, Walt Disney, was making shorts was making shorts that played before the full-length movies that would come out, and then he was able to get this full-length animated feature. It made a lot of money, and he was able to build the entire Disney empire that is crumbling today, but it was able to become as big, prolific, and basically the bedrock of American culture because of that one movie. And Rachel Zeigler is aware of that, and she used that to her own advantage, while simultaneously denigrating the source material, saying that the movie came out in 1937, very evidently. So I won't necessarily get into all the things she said. I'm sure you've heard about that ad nauseum from other sources. As she said, Rachel Zeigler has no respect for Snow White, but she knows so many other people love that movie, have respect for it. They view it with the reverence that I would say it deserves, even though I've never watched it. Can't be bothered to open up the Disney Plus. I've got a password to watch Disney Plus. Don't even want to watch anything because of how tarnished the brand is in my mind. And the stuff that Rachel Zeigler does contributes to it, just shitting on the legacy that Walt Disney built. And that was, Snow White was the impetus for that, because, you had the shorts he did with Mickey Mouse gotten to the point where you could do Snow White, and then that movie legitimized him as an animator, legitimized animation in general. But that's a big tangent there. The whole point that I'm making is that Rachel Zeigler's crumbling in terms of saying she'll get off of the picket line, she'll stop meaningfully striking to sign an agreement. It's just indicative that this revolutionary communist down with the system, as soon as the road as soon as the tire hits the pavement, as soon as anything happens in real life with these LARPers, these resist la resistance types, they crumble like dust, my friend. It is what happens. They do not have any meaningful intention or any meaningful ability to see actual revolution to any sort of end. How the police get a little bit too handsy with them while they protest, and they'll throw a fit. They would not be able to deal with being in an actual violent revolution. Not that I advocate for that at all. I'm a very much a peaceful person. I want to advocate the NAP. I want to peacefully abolish the government, because I think that's the way that'll lead to the least amount of human suffering in the long term. I don't want to burn it all to the ground. I want to decentralize the individual as peacefully as possible. It's just that the way the system is inevitably is that you've got idiots. I'm not saying like Zeigler, but Zeigler's mindset of, I'm going to, be on the picket line, and then as soon as it comes time to promote a movie, I'll sign the agreement and cash the checks for the bank, because I don't want to be without, or I'm not going to sever myself from the machine in any meaningful way, is indicative of that type of mindset. These people do not want to let go of the machine. They want the machine to be there so they can suck and leech off of it. They just want it to be working for them, and they're mad that it isn't. And anything outside of complete and utter capitulation in every single aspect of what they want, and their demands are ridiculous and change day to day, justifies the law resistance. And it's always going to be justified, and it's always going to be happening, because that's the entire point of Marxism, is that you are operating on the basis of the oppressor and the oppressed, and the oppressor exists, and they're always putting their boot down on the oppressor, and you have to be against that. You have to get up every day and fight, but it's all meaningless, like I said, because these people do not want to enact violent revolution, and if they try to do, the second they get any pushback, it's going to be they're going to, like I said, they just crumple like dust, because they don't have any spine, they don't have any backbone. It's all just an act, because they've been brainwashed into doing that, and they feel like it's necessary because of the amount of propaganda they consume. So that's my little rant there, and we are finally going to close this off with the Rippaverse is cooking. So Alphacore #1 has been on the horizon for quite a while, and we've got a release date for the pre-order campaign, November 6th, 2023. Mark your calendars, because that's going to be a big day for the Rippaverse, as we are finally going to see how the Rippaverse does outside of ISOM. And I, for one, am very excited. Joe Bennett is penciling this book, at least. He might be doing the inks as well. I think he might be, but I know for sure he's doing the pencils. Chuck Dixon wrote this book, so I'm sure it's going to be an absolute banger of a book. And we know there's going to be another animated trailer. We got the 40-second teaser of that animated trailer released a couple of, well, actually yesterday, I believe. And it was fantastic. Rippaverse Studios is becoming more of an in-house force, because they've been able to poach animators of all the profits that they're experiencing. So there's going to be more from Rippaverse Studios. And honestly, I am just excited for not only just to read Alphacore as a fan, but from a business perspective to see how Alphacore 1 is going to do in terms of the revenue that's going to make. So for me, I think this is going to be, anywhere from $500,000 to $3.5 million on a pre-order campaign. If it's similarly ran to, I would say, ISOM 2, I imagine it's going to be pretty similar in terms of the options that you'll have available to you. Maybe a few less covers than that, maybe free covers, with one being a limited run. Who knows what it's exactly going to end up being in terms of the exact options, in terms of the exact revenue, but I do think this is going to be a very good book. I'm very excited for it, and it's going to be, like I said, indicative of what the Rippaverse is going to do outside of ISOM, and it's going to really show when the Rippaverse stretches its legs, how far it can go and how far the fans want to take the Rippaverse, because this is more than just a book about ISOM. This is the Alphacore, so this is really showing that, hey, this is an actual comic book universe, and if you want to be a part of it, then you can read Alphacore. And of course, Gyro 1 is going to come out after that, and we've got Gooding, the Polymyth is coming out after that, but we're focusing on the Alphacore right now, Alphacore Autumn and then Yaira Winter, as has been going around in the fan base. And like I said, I feel a lot of excitement. I think this is going to do very well for Eric's company, for his employees as well, and just for the fans as well, because I think Alphacore 1 is going to be a fantastic book to read. I will be reading it. I will be reviewing it. I've reviewed ISOM 1 and 2 on the Substack, so you can check that out. Like I said, really all I gotta say is be excited for Alphacore #1, because I think it's going to be a great book. The full trailer drops on Monday along with the pre-order campaign. Like I said, so we'll get more insight into what Alphacore 1 is. You know, Brian Solari, Ingrid Valdez, and Jeremiah Braxwell. That's the Alphacore. We're going to find out more about them. We're going to find out more about Flores Park in general. So this is going to be a great peer into what the universe is, because that launching pad work was done with ISOM 1. It was expanded on a little bit with ISOM 2, and I think Alphacore 1 is really going to be able to take a deep dive into the universe that the Rippaverse is, because the Alphacore is a peacekeeping organization that operates in Flores Park, so they're naturally going to be a pretty wide net in terms of what you can cover with that sort of story. So I do think it's going to be a great deep dive into the universe of what the Rippaverse is, and it's going to be very much not focused, not hyper focused on on ISOM the way ISOM 2 was, and it's not going to have to do all that launching pad work that ISOM 1 had to do, which is why a lot of people, you know, don't like the pacing of that book, feel like it's very disjointed because of what ISOM 1 really had to be in order to get the Rippaverse started. And now that the Rippaverse has started, Alphacore is really going to be a nice juicy expansion on it, but I imagine it's going to leave us wanting more. But with that, I am going to leave you all with that, and we are going into the outro now. Thank you for being in the Velvet Room with Jokerthefool. Be sure to follow my Substack, velvetroompublishing.substack.com, to read Machine to Man and all my other projects.